The first day of the new year dawned quietly, the light of morning spilling across the ruins we had cleansed the day before. I sat at the edge of camp, staring at the horizon where the dark shadows of the bleeding crags were finally fading into the distance. Beyond the hills stretched the verdant expanse, its flowing ether streams glimmering faintly in the dawn light. I couldn't help but think about where I was a year ago, back on Earth, celebrating New Year's Eve with friends, watching fireworks and toasting to another ordinary year. That life felt impossibly distant now, like a memory of someone else. Another year, I muttered, clutching the shard around my neck. Its pulse was steady and warm, a reminder that, despite everything, I was still here, still standing. Lysara approached quietly, carrying a small satchel. She looked calm as always, though there was a softness in her expression today that I hadn't seen before. "Are you reflecting on your home?" she asked. "Yeah," I admitted. "It's strange. Back there, the new year was always about resolutions, change, trying to be better. Here, every day is about survival," she nodded, handing me a piece of glowing ether-infused bread. "Perhaps it is no different. Change comes not in the grand gestures, but in the small moments of resolve, like this one." Today we moved forward. We broke camp shortly after sunrise and set out toward the heart of the verdant expanse, where the Council of Aralis had told us allies might await. The landscape here was a stark contrast to the bleeding crags. Vibrant hills covered in grass that shimmered faintly with embedded ether, sparkling streams cutting through the land like glowing veins. The air was clearer, the hum of the ether constant but calm, as though the land itself was trying to heal. It gave me hope, even as I knew the shadow would not leave this place untouched for long. Lysara walked a step ahead of me, her movements confident and fluid. She seemed more at ease here, as though the land was giving her strength too. "Where exactly are we headed?" I asked, breaking the silence. "To the Elder Grove," Lysara said. "It is one of the oldest living places in this world, untouched by shadow for centuries. If there are allies to be found, they will be there, creatures and people who have safeguarded the ether long before the shadow's corruption." "Elder Grove," I repeated. "Sounds peaceful." Her gaze darkened slightly. "Peaceful does not mean safe. The shadow's corruption has begun to creep toward it. If it has taken hold, we will have a fight on our hands." Of course we would. The journey took us through wide meadows filled with glowing wildflowers. The ether was strong here, and for the first time in days, I felt as though the world was breathing. The shard responded to it too, its pulse brighter and more alive. I could feel it thrumming within me, a connection I didn't fully understand yet, but was beginning to trust. As we crossed a shallow stream, I paused to kneel at its edge. The water was crystal clear, its surface shimmering with strands of etheric light. I dipped my hand in, and for a moment, I felt something deeper, a warmth that wasn't just the shard, but something in the land itself. "Do you feel it?" Lysara asked softly, kneeling beside me. "Yeah," I replied. "It's like the land is trying to speak to me." She smiled faintly. "The ether remembers. It carries the memory of what was and what can be again. You are becoming attuned to it, an awakening." I looked at her, searching her expression. "Is that what this is? Me, awakening?" "Perhaps," she said, standing and offering me a hand. "Or perhaps the shard is awakening something that was always there." By midday, the calm was broken. The whispering voices returned, soft at first, like distant echoes, but growing louder with each step. The air grew colder, the grass beneath our feet darkening as black tendrils began to spread across it. Lysara's hand moved to the hilt of her blade. "The shadow has found us. Be ready." Ahead of us, the land dipped into a narrow valley, and at its center stood a twisted tree, its bark blackened and cracked, its branches gnarled and dripping with shadow. It pulsed faintly, a sickly red glow radiating from its core. "What is that?" I asked, dread knotting in my stomach. "A corruption root," Lysara said, her voice low. "A seed of the shadow. If left unchecked, it will spread, poisoning the land." The shard at my neck flared brightly, its pulse quickening. The whispers screamed louder now, their voices pounding in my skull. "You will fail. The light cannot stop us. This land will fall." I clenched my fists, pushing back the fear. "How do we stop it?" "The shard," Lysara said, stepping forward. "Its light can purify the corruption, but the root will defend itself." As if on cue, figures began to rise from the blackened earth. Shadowed creatures, their forms twisted and jagged, advanced toward us, their movements jerky and unnatural. Lysara moved first, her blade cutting through the creatures with deadly precision. I raised the shard, summoning its light into a barrier as the first wave of attackers reached me. The ether here was harder to grasp, twisted by the root's corruption, but I focused on the shard's warmth, letting it guide me. A burst of light erupted from my hands, dissolving the closest creatures into mist. "Push forward!" Lysara shouted. "We must reach the root." We fought our way toward the twisted tree, its red glow intensifying with each step. The shard pulsed faster, as though it could sense the corruption's source. I focused all my energy, channeling the ether through the shard as we reached the base of the tree. The whispers screamed in fury, their voices almost deafening now. "You are too late! This land is ours!" I ignored them, pressing my hand against the tree's blackened bark. The shard flared, its light blazing like a star. The tree trembled violently, tendrils of shadow writhing and cracking as the light surged through it. With a final deafening roar, the corruption root split apart, its blackened branches collapsing into ash. The shadows around us dissolved, and the whispers fell silent. The valley was still, the air clear once more. The grass beneath our feet began to lighten, the land breathing again as the ether flowed freely. I sank to my knees, the shard's light dimming as it settled. Lysara stood beside me, her blade lowered, her expression calm but watchful. "You've done it," she said quietly. "The light is reclaiming this place." That night, as we made camp near the now healing valley, I looked up at the sky. The stars were brighter here, their light untainted by shadow. "A new year," I murmured, the shard's warmth pulsing softly against my chest. "Maybe a chance to turn the tide." Lysara glanced at me, her silver eyes reflecting the starlight. "Hope is a powerful force," she said. "The shadow cannot extinguish it unless we let it." As I lay beneath the stars, I let her words settle into me. The shadow was still out there, growing stronger with each passing day. But so was the light, and as long as I carried it, I would keep moving forward. No matter what lay ahead,